Let's move on to Bitcoin, shall we? That's a virtual currency. We're going to talk about...
Do you want to know more about Bitcoin marketing? We have 5 Bitcoin guides for you. See link on description. Download is 100% free. Click now.
The cyber threat now, and who's ever heard of the Bitcoin?
It's even been called the future of money, the Bitcoin.
More on this cryptic and still somewhat confusing currency that is Bitcoin.
People are fascinated by anything that makes new highs every day for weeks on end, which Bitcoin has done.
Is it a market? Is it a bank? Is it an exchange?
We're asking whether or not this currency really has any longevity, let alone legitimacy.
You'd have to be an idiot not to know how much risk you're bearing if you purchase Bitcoin.
The value of it, I mean, look at the chart, is sinking and skyrocketing.
This is a commodity. It's no different than the tulip mania of the 1600s.
Feds are starting to crack down on so-called virtual currencies.
Wild West currency. It had a bad stigma. People said that it was being used for narco trafficking, potentially to back terrorism efforts.
Some rumors that it's this Japanese guy, but others say no, that he's a fake name. It was a pseudonym. You're literally putting real money onto a system that we don't even know who created it.
Is this legitimate in your view?
It is legitimate, and it is a fascinating experiment.
It's an interesting brainchild, though. It really is, for people who around the world who are upset with fiat currency.
What about Silk Road and the Drug Association? What about HSBC? Billions of dollars of money laundering right there. The current scandal with co-op. People are scared by the banking in this country and around the world.
But the banking crisis there does raise the intriguing question of what is money?
What exactly is Bitcoin and how does it work?
There is no central bank, no central authority, no corporation behind it.
Knows no borders, knows no boundaries, and in many cases knows no rules.
It's a new internet protocol like email or the web.
Yeah. All of this is done on peer-to-peer networks. Nobody really even knows who created the Bitcoin.
Developed entirely on an open platform.
No one's in charge.
Free
totally
market.
decentralized.
Okay,
Free market.
The value of each Bitcoin hit a new high.
It has, as this chart shows, been skyrocketing in value over the past 3 years. I know some people are obsessed with this and have been all over this quote-unquote phenomenon.
So many people are jumping into this virtual currency. It's created so much attention. One of the biggest Bitcoin exchanges actually reported that it was having trouble technologically keeping up with all the order flow.
Its unknown creator setting a finite number of the digital currency of 21 million, with only 11 million in circulation.
The maximum amount of Bitcoins that can ever exist on the planet is 21 million Bitcoins.
Some would argue that it is more useful as a form of money because it cannot be debased by people like Ben Bernanke or Mr. Draghi.
Is no inflation because you don't run the risk of anyone printing the currency.
Geek currency, Bitcoin, has been under fire recently for its dramatic price swing.
Is it just going to keep on going up?
Now, if you didn't bite at the Bitcoin craze, you may have saved yourself some money. Mary Thompson is here. What was that with the flash crash?
Everybody's been talking about it, and hackers are actually to blame for this most recent sell-off. Last night, the digital currency's major exchange, Mt. Gox as it's called, was hit with a denial-of-service attack.
What do you make of this madness?
Well, I think Bitcoin has turned into a massive multiplayer online game where speculators are trying to out-speculate each other. Despite the extreme volatility, businesses are trying to cash in on this phenomenon.
A lot of venture capitalists are actually coming into the space.
Some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley and even some big Wall Street names too.
Hedge funds, individual investors.
All of the above. Private investors, private capital, venture capital is very interested in this trend.
There are more and more places accepting it. It's just that you're very far from critical mass.
The world's first ever Bitcoin ATM is coming to Silicon Valley.
I mean, you got this bar here in the middle of Manhattan now suddenly taking it. In various countries, that's really starting to increase. So China has been becoming pretty popular. In countries like Argentina.
Berlin, that's become the capital of the currency. Many businesses are already accepting payment with the Bitcoins.
Shopify.com, which has thousands of retailers, just have started accepting Bitcoin.
Why accept Bitcoins?
Why not?
My mother's friend said, oh, can you ask your son what he thinks about Bitcoin? It was the same day they fell 50% as well.
And there are a lot of people who are fans of Bitcoin, but there are also regulators and officials who remain concerned.
Multiple federal agencies touch Bitcoin in some sort of way, everything from the Treasury Department to the Federal Election Commission.
Now it's starting to, like, if you can buy a drink with it, it's a real thing. I think that there's no way federal regulators will stand for this.
The government shuts it down. What's it worth then?
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. If the government wanted to shut it down, wanted to prevent you from conducting a transaction, they have nowhere to go. It's like cash.
You can want to regulate it all you want, but I'm a little worried that virtual currencies, whether it's Bitcoin or the next one that pops up, isn't something that from a practical sense, you'll be able to.
I mean, doesn't the government claim an utter and total and absolute monopoly on the means of exchange?
Just last month, of course, the government shut down the Silk Road website, an Amazon-like marketplace for drugs, guns, other illicit goods.
Gambling and other things and drugs. The people are saying that that's what's happening.
So you wonder how long, in that sense, it's going to last.
Value goes up. It sort of happens within the network. But if sentiment on Bitcoin starts to go down, you're probably going to watch that value crumble.
This kind of stuff is scary. You know, I mean, the volatility of it has been outrageous. You know, it goes from 100 to 260.
Yes. So I could walk in with my brand new iPhone and I could dial up the dyno, whatever it is, and say, here's my Bitcoin.
And are you pro or I don't get it.
I don't know.
Joe Weisenthal, the Business Insider.
I'm not on this bandwagon yet. I'm not an early adopter, though.
What do you think?
I'm with you. I don't understand it. But
the whole thing is done to the extent that viewers don't understand this. And by the way, I had to look it up to understand it.
So if you've got a Bitcoin, you could sell me the Bitcoin.
Well, it's confusing. It doesn't really fit in the normal regulatory categories.
We hear you, Jeff. I'm just trying to get to grips with all this technology stuff.
This latest surge came thanks to some high-power support from within the U.S.
Bitcoin arriving in Washington on the national stage.
They've done the due diligence to say this is simply not a
So
money
how do you think the
laundering.
regulators get around it, though?
I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think, as Nick was saying, I think it's got a shot.
That's what this hearing is all about. Today and tomorrow is the legitimacy, the rising legitimacy of Bitcoin.
Do you think this is the tipping point that you get the Fed chairman name-checking it? Does it feel mainstream to you now?
Bitcoins have come a very long way in a very short period of time. There's going to be some fallout.
Do you ever think that it has the potential to replace traditional paper currency?
We are arriving at the day where something electronic can threaten traditional money.
What you're talking about right now is for the next 3 to 5 years, an unbelievably better store value. It is gold 2.0.
They think bypasses governments and bypasses regulation. That says something about the climate we live in.
It's a socioeconomic movement which we're going through at the moment.
People have 100% complete control over their own money, and it's the first time in the entire history of the world in which something like that's existed.
Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin is the first example. I believe they're going to change the world, but probably not in the way we expect.
This is the time where people should be trying really big, crazy things.
Do you want to know more about Bitcoin marketing? We have 5 Bitcoin guides for you. See link on description. Download is 100% free. Click now.